very, very fine football team. They've won a lot of games already, and it's going to be a great challenge for us. So we're deep into the preparation, and as we get ready for Dallas, I'm sure you guys have some questions. I'll try to answer them for you.
What's the plan for the quarterbacks today at practice?
Well, we're gonna practice the guys that are out there. So, if just like last week, Mike ready to go.
Who's going to get the first team snaps?
Well, we'll just see. We're out here today practicing, but again, at this point, Nick, and again, going back on that question, I can probably answer some of the ones that are going to come along here. Coach Kelly will address those issues about who the quarterback is when both of them are healthy. And at this point, we go with Nick, and then when Mike's healthy, then we'll have that discussion.
Are those two as evenly as matched as you can remember two quarterbacks being during your time in this league?
Well, they both are. I think they're both very fine quarterbacks, and when you look at it, in our 3 victories, they contributed equally. And they do different things well, and they can both be very, very effective and efficient in our offense.
So, if DeMarcus Ware doesn't play, how significantly is Dallas' defense weakened?
Well, he's an outstanding player, has been for a long time, and I'm sure they'll find ways to compensate. But when you have a great player like DeMarcus Ware, a guy that, by the nature of his position, puts pressure on the quarterback, I'm sure they're going to do what they can to make up for it, but that's not.
Pat, what are the advantages of Michael Vick and then the advantages of Nick Foles? When they have different qualities. What's the advantage of Foles and Vick? Just explain both.
Well, I think they're both. I think number one, Nick moves a little bit better than some people give him credit for, and I think Mike operates from the pocket a little bit better than some people give him credit for, and so they both can function equally well in our offense, and I think they've both been very efficient. We caught a game last week where Nick did a nice job of completing his deep balls. He made good decisions in the run game, which is very important for us. But Mike's done the same thing. And so, I think we'll sit here and try to compare the 2 players. But for the most part, they both can do anything we want them to do for us to be successful on offense.
Now, what is their relationship like inside the classroom? How do they work off each other? They talk about being very close and really.
I think we got a good quarterback room. I think those guys all work well. And in my experience with quarterback rooms, if the room's not right, then it's hard for the starter to play well, and it's hard for the guys that aren't the starters to develop. But they both, along with Matt, the room is good. Bill does a good job of directing them. The room is good, and the time that I spend in there with them and on the field, you see them trying to support the guy that's the starter, but in total, they're all just trying to get better.
What was the biggest difference in the red zone last week? Was it execution or just different play calling as we had the last week?
We hit on some. We didn't have as many bad plays as we've had in the past, and we hit on the passes that we threw, and then we ran the ball in as well. So, we just played better in the red zone. For those of you that are number crunchers, at the end of the game, we played the game right, and it went against us in terms of our red zone efficiency. We were fighting to make the Buccaneers use their timeouts. We knew that a field goal made it 2 scores, and so that's one of those things we could have even been better in terms of our touchdown percentage. But what we were trying to do there was right based on where we were in the game.
Does that have anything to do with Nick being the quarterback, your success in the red zone? Or
we'd have played the game exactly the same way. We would have had all the same plays in the game plan, and we would have called it exactly the same way if Mike was playing.
Because his percentage, in the red zone, your percentage with Nick in the red zone is a lot better than it has been with Mike.
The passes that we threw in the red zone Sunday, we would have called the exact same passes if Mike was quarterback.
There's 2 different quarterbacks though, right? 2 different styles, 2 different heights. Execution can be different.
Well, we expect them to execute and be efficient. And really the plays that we call, you don't call certain plays for a tall quarterback and certain ones for that. It's not as tall.
Chip said yesterday that Riley Cooper's been open. step and getting him the ball. Why was that for the first 5 games?
I don't know. Each play is different. But I've said this before, and I really believe it. Catches and targets first, of course, and then catches. They come in bunches. And the ball went Coop's way, and he did a good job of catching it. So it's a good deal.
Pat, following up on what you said about that passer and the importance of it being right, how would you do you worry about if they'll stay right as outside voices get louder about who should be quarterback and puts those guys on those spots?
Nope, not at all. We don't really worry about what the outside voices say. What we try to do is get the players ready to play the next opponent.
Do you think they're conscious of it though? That Mike and Nick are conscious of what's...
You have to ask them. But I know this, they're professionals. This isn't the first time they've been through this type of stuff. And as a quarterback, you deal with it. Anybody that plays any position deals with it. In my mind, it's a quarterback conversation. I don't know what, I understand the interest. I understand the number crunching, comparing, the two quarterbacks. But, at the end of the day, when you're asking me the questions, what we're trying to do is get the guys that are healthy ready to play. Decision-making comes down to what Coach Kelly decides the guys are out.
Pat, with all the injuries to quarterbacks this year, do you think the league at some point, maybe not now, will trend to having two quarterbacks who are capable of starting and all that? And sometimes there's always a drop-off between the starter and the backup guy.
Yeah, I think it's important that we continue to develop quarterbacks, and that's probably a discussion for the off-season when you talk about how you structure your rosters and whatnot. But typically, your starter is better than your back. In our situation, we've got two guys that have gone in one game, so ours is a little bit unique. But in a lot of places, there's probably a drop-off between the first and second game.
You guys had one turnover in the last 3 games. I think so. Why is there something that's changed, Pat? Did you guys do something differently out in practice fields?
No, for those of you that have been here watching,
We don't think we see much.
well, you see, but what you have seen, we just emphasize it, and I think our guys have done a good job of securing the football. There are times, though, when we don't secure the ball and it doesn't get exposed, and so there's always something to work on. And I've said it before, you typically get what you emphasize, and it's been a big point of emphasis. Has been throughout the off-season training and training camp, but our guys have just done a good job.
Pat, is the Cowboys predominantly a Tampa 2 team?
No, actually, they're not. I mean, they play Tampa. When they play too deep, they play Tampa 2. But most of the time, they're playing with a single safety. So they play single safety man and zone, and they play split safety man and zone.
Pat, Deshaun through his career has never really been a red zone guy. He only had 4 touchdowns in his career until the Giants game in the red zone. We're inside the 15. He's got 2 in the last 2 weeks. Just talk about that evolution of his game. Is it a conscious thing that you've kind of expanded what he does?
No, I think he's, I've said it before that I think he could be an effective player all the way up and down the field. And he did a good job last week with the routes that he ran. And, I don't know if we're consciously trying to evolve him into a better red zone player, but when his number was called, he did a good job. And I think as a receiver, you just really want to make sure you're running good routes, and you want the quarterback to be confident in what you're doing, and then when the ball comes your way, catch it. And I think he's working on all those things.
As we look at the playing time each week, Zach Ertz is creeping up each week in terms of the amount of snaps he has. What's he been showing you in practice, and where do you see this continuing?
Yeah, I think, we had one of those games last week where James Casey was not up, so he took a couple extra reps.
But James is never really.
Well, but he played a little bit more. And again, I think Ertz is doing a good job. I think Zach is improving. There's a lot going on for rookies in this league that are trying to make a major contribution, and I think he's improving each week. But that's not the reason he's playing more. But he's one of the guys that's up and active, and we use him.
But could you see him as the top tight end?
Well, I think what he needs to do is continue to improve. Right now, Brent Selleck is our top tight end for a lot of reasons that I really admire him. He's one of the toughest guys we got. Fights, does everything we ask. When the ball comes his way, does what we got.
On both of Deshaun's touchdowns, he was lined up in the slot, I believe.
Now, the one he caught in the back of the end zone, he was lined up outside, actually.
Okay. But I mean, the one he caught when he was
The
lined up
deep
in the
ball.
slot.
The deep ball, he was in the slot.
Right. Was that? I mean, is that done like for matchups, or are you trying to like move Deshaun around?
No, we lined him up in the slot. We were slot to our right side, which he can be. We put him everywhere. We'll line up 3 receivers to the left or right, and we'll put him at the first, second, and third spot. And we'll line up in the slot, put him inside, outside, and then typically he plays his position, which is mostly on the right. So we play him everywhere.
What's the benefit of that slot then? What do you see? Why do you think it's a...
There are certain route concepts, certain things we do in the run game where we want him in there. And, each week, that's part of our competitive advantage, is not talking about luck.
How's Chip Kelly improved as a play caller since the start of the season?
I think he's a good play caller. I think he was early in the season as well. I don't see any... I think we all improve as coaches and players as you go throughout the year because we get used to working with one another. But the reason he's the head coach here is he was an outstanding play caller, won a lot of games, and I think he's doing all those same things.
You used a lot of unbalanced line last week, Pat, in the fourth quarter. Why do you like it, and why is it so effective?
Well, in the fourth quarter, we were in what we call our 4-minute drill, where we're trying to advance the football and choose some clock. I think that was a really gritty drive by our guys. Even though we did not score a touchdown, and we visited on a plane, Merrill and I, about it. We did not score a touchdown. By moving the ball down the field methodically, we were chewing clock, and then in the last go-around there, when they jumped off sides on 4th down, it then allowed us to chew up their timeouts. And then by kicking the field goal, of course, it makes it 2 scores. And the unbalanced line is just something that the defense has to adjust to. And we'll use it in the 4-minute drill, but we'll use it out in the field. In fact, we might start the game with an unbalanced line.
Does Selleck's competency of, some sense of blocker making it free to do that? Sometimes he is taking one defensive end. Balance.
And his ability to block helps us there for sure.
What's the key from a quarterback's perspective in executing a successful screen?
Well, I think it's important. Number one, screens are a good way to slow down the rush. If you look at it from outside in, they were pressuring us and getting after us a little bit, bringing edge pressure. And we carry screens in every game. There's some games when we use them more than others, but it needs to look like a pass, and then of course the quarterback has to. He's got to take his normal drop, and whatever he's doing with his initial drop, then retreat a couple steps, and then locate the screen run. There's times when you got to throw it in a lane between people, but they're always prepared to go up and over. And we did a good job of getting the screens completed. Then, of course, I thought we did an excellent job of blocking on the perimeter, on the 2 screens to the halfback, and then, of course, the 1 to print.
The screen to Deshaun, the first play, it looked like you had Deshaun in motion the other way. Do you think that really, Tampa was following him?
Well, we did the same thing. Then we flipped the play and ran the screen the other way later in the game. I think Deshaun in the backfield kind of draws a little attention. We actually did the same thing and then ran the ball later, just before half. So that's a window dressing.
That's something you seem to be doing a lot of, running the same plays, even if they're towards a different side. What's the thinking behind that? Is it more than maybe you've done in the past when you were with Chip?
No, we've done it. I think all play callers will run the same play if they have success. Sometimes developing a tendency is a good thing. It means you're good at something. I think that's. I heard that said once before. But then of course you got to be able to make it look like one thing and do another as well. So that's all the fun stuff we worry about. We're not visiting.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.